Hi everybody, welcome back. This video is going to be coverage of my round 3 game against Michael Green. I was playing with the black pieces, and it's from the British Chess Championships 2026. Yeah, I was on half out of 2. We were both on half out of 2, and yeah, really enjoying the event so far. Yeah, looking to get into this game with you. So those of you that might know Michael Green, he's actually a bit of a streamer and YouTuber as well, and does quite a lot of social media, something I can only potentially aspire to be like. And he's actually released a course on 1C3, which I believe is called 1C3 Venom. It kind of like, I think it's a bit of a London system kind of thing, with a bit of Karo Khan kind of mixed in, or reverse Karo Khan as well. So obviously you can check out his course if you want to. But I was kind of expecting him to play maybe 1c3 against me, but obviously he looked me up, and so therefore he actually started with 1d4. It wasn't that I was completely surprised by this. I saw that he had actually started either d4 or knight f3 as well. It was just trying to get inside my opponent's head to see what he was actually thinking. So therefore I started with knight f6, and it keeps my options open just to see what he's going to do on move 2. And he plays bishop f4, which is the start of the London system. So of course we've got all of these sensible moves: e3, c3, knight f3, h3 even as well, and then okay, knight bd2 as well. This is the usual setup that they go for. But it seems to be really popular now that if I continue with my King's Indian, then a lot of people now are starting to go knight c3 here on move 3. Basically, if I go bishop g7, they're going to play pawn to e4, and they've actually transposed into playing something like a perk. It might be pronounced Pietz, I'm not unsure of the pronunciation. So this is something to be potentially avoided, and you can play d5 here, and that's also perfectly fine to play. But I don't know, I was just trying to get inside my opponent's head, so I know that I can play almost like a King's Indian structure. I can also play it with b6 as well, which is what I did here. And this might have just kind of annoyed him a little bit, because he might have wanted to go for knight c3 or knight d2 in order to play e4. And if I put my bishop on b7, then of course you can see that I'm going to have two pieces hitting the e4 square, so therefore he's not going to be able to get this advance in. And b6, bishop b7 is actually part of the system that I want to play. So I was hoping that this might have caused him a bit of an issue. Of course, only time will tell. But this game goes into a normal kind of London system, and I'm pretty sure I've had similar positions like this before, actually. And after castles, for some reason I thought, right, I'm just going to do something a little bit different here. The main move I know is knight bd7, I'm sure most of the time I would play this. But I actually went for knight e4 straight away. And this is kind of funny kind of exchanges, and this is kind of like a really good line against the London. One, you get to exchange off pieces easily, but also two, this London bishop that they all seem to love is just hitting an absolute rock hard pawn, and we can even move one of those pawns that's supporting it, because we've still got the other one to protect it as well. So it's the London system. This system seems to just play really well against it. So we get to exchange off all these pieces, and now I'm pretty sure, okay, he does want to play c3. This is kind of like the main move, but I actually expected like bishop f3 here. And I would continue something like queen c8. We could swap the bishops off, and then he could actually bring his queen to f3 if he wanted. We'd swap the queens off as well. But that tends to be a little bit better for me, as maybe I'll play c5 at the end of that variation and start to attack the pawn centre. So very happy that I've equalised here, shall we say, at this moment. He continues with c3 there, and I think, okay, well, I could obviously transpose with knight bd7 go into that before. Right, okay, let's go e5. Just while I've got the time to get my pawn advanced in the centre, and he brings his bishop back to h2. And I'm just like, well, his bishops aren't exactly aggressively placed, are they, at the moment? Like my bishop's aggressively placed. If I wanted to, I could threaten checkmate in one move. And an opening's gone well for you if you're able to threaten checkmate in one move. That's usually a good sign. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm winning or anything like that. I've been able to get a pawn in the centre. We've both got pawns in the centre. We've both got pieces out. Okay, decided to develop my queen before my knights. Just a little bit of kind of manoeuvring around. And it's like moves like rook e1. Like, I'm never actually really taking on d4. So therefore I think the rook doesn't really hit the queen on this file very well. I think really what he's doing is making space for his pieces on f1. But he had space for his pieces, is the thing. But the problem is, though, is that if I start here with knight bd7, then he can transpose to all the lines with bishop f3. And then I take, queen takes, and then we carry on. But when I go queen e7, bishop f3 could get met by e4. And even though I blunt my own bishop, I actually take more space with my pawn. So this is just a little bit of the move order change that I'm inserting in here, which just causes him a bit of an issue. Which is why he puts the bishop back to f1, and you go, okay, well this bishop's hitting the pawn, this bishop's doing the defending job. He's not worse, it's probably just equal, but I was feeling very happy around here. I think he offered me a draw somewhere around this area. I mean, I'd equalised from the opening, so I was perfectly happy to play on. If he'd played maybe a bit more of an aggressive opening, and suppose it was still slight advantage to white, then I would have seriously considered it. I guess with doing the junior coaching in the morning, I'm having quite long days, but don't really want to be taking the draw in round 3 this early. Although I can see myself doing that in the future. And this is my first kind of like interesting move here, where I go a6. The point behind this move is that I just want to control this b5 square from the bishop. And I'm also just kind of seeing what he's going to do, because you can't just do nothing. You know, I might go b5, I might go c5. I'm going to do something with my rooks. I might go like f5, e4 and take the space. But I haven't quite decided yet. I want to also see what he's going to play. He plays a4, which was kind of expected. Obviously, he thinks that I'm trying to play b5, but also this is a really useful move for him anyway. And actually, one of the main lines, he plays this a lot earlier. And the idea that this move pawn to a5 actually causes me a bit of an issue. What do I actually do about it? Especially if this pawn was back here, this move a5 would have been quite annoying. Because I have to either block it completely by pushing my pawn here, or have my pawns where they are, and if he pushes, then I can push past. But even that creates, my pawns will be on light squares for his bishop. So there is issues. Sometimes you can take, and sometimes you can ignore it, and they can take you. So it's there's a lot of options there. But okay, bring my rook to e8 just to see what happens. Maybe there's kind of like some sort of like things here, tricks here, where I can take, and then I can take the rook, because we can swap queens at the end there. But queen b3, and I think, okay, I do want to get the queens off. His queen's probably one of his best pieces at the moment compared to his minor pieces right now. And I was a bit shocked by this move. He takes d4. I didn't think he'd do this. I thought he'd maybe swap queens first, but he takes first and then takes the queens off, and we reach this position. And you see that we're starting to use a lot of time on the clock as well here, because it's a very complicated and complex position. One wrong move here could lead to the other person getting the advantage. And I do believe that after a5, b5, I wasn't so sure about knight b3. For me, this didn't feel right for him to play. And I played c5, but I did look afterwards, and the computer did recommend bishop d5, which is what I wanted to play. But the reason why I didn't play this move wasn't that I didn't see it, I just didn't see what to do after c4. Because of course I can take the pawn, but he just brings his knight back, and he's actually just winning the pawn back. I can defend it with one rook, but he just brings another rook over. And I just thought I was swapping off a few too many pawns there. I wanted to keep the pawns on the board and keep it closed. And this c4 move was what scared me. So I went for a different setup, risking something else. So c5, okay, he chucks in c4, b4, and then rook d1, bishop c6. And now he's just got this option to do rook takes knight, bishop takes, and then do knight takes c5. Obviously it's sacrificing the exchange, and he gets a pawn for it, so it's hugely risky for him to do it. But I have to be prepared that this could happen at any moment, and I have to be very wary about it, that, you know, this is something that I would be looking to do in his position, because he does need a bit more space. I mean, this bishop's blocked in by this pawn, this bishop's blocked in by this pawn, whereas, you know, my bishop's blocked in by my own pawn, but I can move it at my leisure, and this bishop's got a great diagonal. It's also coming out to a4 as well, so my bishops are definitely better in this position. Even though, when I analysed it late last night very quickly, the computer says it's all equal around here, which I was very surprised at. I thought I was definitely better, but maybe that's just my mistake. He doesn't do the exchange sack, and I take away his option because now I cover this pawn and free up my knight to move away if I need to. And I defend my knight with rook a7. I was tempted to go knight f6, but I thought he would happily exchange off a pair of rooks with rook d8, and it gets just a little bit slow. I want to keep pieces on the board here. The reason being is that, okay, my pawn's slightly further forward, I've got a little bit more space. The double rooks on the d-file look quite menacing. They're probably his best asset at the moment with some tricks down the d-file. But if I can like put this bishop here, this bishop will cover d8 and d6, this bishop will cover d5 and d7, he's not actually able to insert a rook into my position and infiltrate, so therefore I should be fine here. He goes bishop d3, and I think this is, you know, probably his a really good try to activate his pieces. And I thought I was actually kind of nearly winning at this point, but again the computer says not. And I try for f5, gaining space, and he plays a really good move here that I saw coming. He goes for g4, which is very, very brave, and I think the right thing to do. I thought this was exactly what he should be playing here. And okay, I'm just going to put on the chess.com analysis. Oh, I didn't need to do that. How did that work? Why did that go like that? No, don't want to go back to the end, do we? So hang on, if I go analysis again, okay, right, okay. So we're around about this point here, and he goes g4. At this point, it's ever so slight edge for black, like minus 0.11 or 0.2. It's barely anything. And after g4, it's minus 0.25 again, or something like that. So this is still the critical move. He did maybe have a few more moves here. The computer says this and this are also good, but it's just feeling like it's a little bit harder for white to find moves than it is for me, because I've always got right at the end, I've got a couple of things that's in my favour here. One, eventually I can go bishop here, and attack this pawn. Two, the reason why I put his bishop on d3 in the first place was because bishop a4 was coming, and it was going to pin the knight to the rook, and it was going to be really difficult for him to defend it. So he goes g4, which I think is really good, and takes, and I thought after e4, I thought I had a big advantage here. But no, apparently it's still equal. But apparently he's got to go bishop c2 in order to maintain the quality. But after bishop here, I put my knight into e5, and I thought that this was the right thing to do, but maybe king f7 was just a bit easier to play. Why did I not play king f7 in the end? Because I would have wanted to play king f7. This feels like it was a better move. Why didn't I do this? King f7 seems to be so obvious here because there's no need to give him rook d8. I can play king f7 first and then go knight e5 next go. So that was a mistake by me. That was a bit sloppy actually. I should not be doing things like that, because here he gets a little counterplay. And here at this point I'm very close to I think realizing my advantage. But after king f7 he has to play accurately in order to win it, and he has to be brave. And I was talking about the exchange sacrifices earlier, and the move that scared me here was rook takes bishop. Because after king takes rook, knight takes c5, his pieces get really active here. My rook is under attack with check, so I have to bring it back. And then I saw that the rook came into d6, and now you see that he's threatening bishop takes knight, rook takes bishop here. My pieces are all over the place. I'm probably going to lose e4. Because of this as well, I might even lose the a6 pawn, which if the knight takes it, will be attacking b4. I'm losing far too many pawns here for this to be good for me. So I can't allow this. So what I have to do is I have to give check first with the knight, and then take it, and then I can play king f7. And here I'm just starting to kick him away. If I get bishop e7 in, his rook looks like it's going to be running shorter squares, by the way, back here. My king can come to g7. My bishop can come back as well to d7. It covers it. We've nearly covered every single square, especially because he can't go rook b8, because bishop d6 check would win the exchange for not very much compensation. So he goes knight c1, which I was surprised at. I didn't think he needed to bring his knight back to here. I think I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to bring it to e2 and then f4, or maybe even g3 to attack the e4 pawn. But the knight was doing a great job hitting this, which means that my bishop is tied down to defending it, but also he's got exchange stacks still in the air that he could potentially try. He's also got to watch out for bishop a4 as well. This move could come at any moment, and okay, bishop c2 is currently what he's got, but I could take that knight, for example, and go into opposite coloured bishops. So knight c1 is the first kind of error, and then I thought he could have tried harder to keep his rooks into my position, but we're approaching like early move 30s. I'm down to 3 minutes, he's down to 15 minutes. We're playing quite quickly here. I just see this very easy plan of rook e5, and then actually just starting to expose his king. And he just comes a little bit too far with his king here. And I think after king e6, I have got checkmating threats. I'm threatening h4, g5 checkmates, or bishop g5 checkmate, whichever one you want. So he's brought his king too far already. He takes the pawn, and I'm just like, okay, here, this is great. I'm down to 2 minutes on the clock. It's move 36. I've only got 4 moves to make the time control. So actually it's a mistake, but I give the check. And actually he's meant to go back to h2 here, and actually it's still advantage to me, but it's not quite as winning, because after king f4, rook takes here, I'm thinking brilliant, because now this king is pretty much in a checkmating net and a mating net, and I thought, okay, this game is done and dusted here. What is he going to do? He goes knight e2, I go rook a8. I'm just like, fantastic. We've got checkmate on the cards here. Rook f8, king wherever, rook g5 check, king goes to h2, and then the other rook comes to h8, checkmate. That's how this game is going to end. However, fair play to him. He finds pretty much the only move to cause me an issue here, which is rook d5. And I'm just like, what? And he hits me with this on move 40. I'm just like, what is going on here? This is just crazy. I've got two and a bit minutes left to analyze this. Maybe I should just take it. There's kind of like the idea that if I'm just lazy here, then I could run into a few problems. So it takes, and then bishop a2, and he's winning, right? So I can't, he's getting the rook back for the bishop, and actually he's just taking the pawn, or he's lost the pawn in doing that. But this is just really good for him now. I can actually defend with the rook, but then he moves the king out of the way, brings the knight, and then I'm in big trouble. So you gotta watch out for these things. But I guess the point is that after bishop takes, maybe pawn takes, I can probably just go king d6. And what I was trying to do here was not really allow him to basically take a free pawn, because now it's a pawn and a knight against the rook, rather than being an entire exchange up. Maybe I thought bishop takes as well. Can you not do bishop takes? Oh, am I checkmating him still here, which is the problem with that. So yeah, I should have just done something simple like this, but I guess going down to 2 minutes on the clock, I just thought, right, we'll just give a check. This can't be wrong, and now we get the extra moves, extra half an hour at move 40. But because of this, here in this position, I've got loads of time on the clock because of the time control, and this is where I make a huge error. I make an absolutely massive error here. I should just do bishop takes rook, and after pawn takes, it seems so simple now thinking about it. Just move my king here, and just I guess let him have this pawn, but he can't do this because rook g5 check, king here, and then rook h8 is checkmate. So after king d6, I guess he has to go king g2. And then, okay, the game continues, but because my king's on d6 now and not on this diagonal, I guess I could even potentially just do rook takes d5, couldn't I? And that was just really stupid of me. Because instead I went rook f3 check for some ridiculous reason. And the reason revolves around something after bishop takes, pawn takes. I really want to do something like, well, I can't do rook takes, can I? But I was looking at lines here where you go something like knight f4 check and I just take it. Right, this was the kind of point. And for some reason I was thinking that after rook f3 check, I'd rather his king be back on g2 after knight f4 so I can just take it off. And his king's further back. And it's just, I think he's just tiredness creeping in. And now I have to win this game all over again. I'm thinking, oh no, there's even tactics where he takes on e4, my rook's going to be here, trapped in. There's the knight f4 check does come now. And there's loads of endgames here that are just absolutely crazy. So apparently rook takes is the best move here. And then I guess bishop takes. And apparently I'm just a pawn up and therefore winning. But it doesn't feel that way, does it? What? Knight f4, I have to do rook takes knight? This is winning? This is the kind of chess. Okay, we've got a discovered check that doesn't do much. But bishop f6 apparently just hitting this pawn is... Yeah, this is apparently winning, but this is not the kind of thing that I wanted to do to win this game. Exchange sacrifice when I was an exchange up. I did not want to do this. I really want to do bishop takes, pawn takes, and then just move my king somewhere. This is what I want to do. like king e5. But even king e5 is fraught with danger, right? Because he plays d6, and after bishop takes, bishop a2. Okay, maybe he doesn't have to go d6 straight away, but he's got this rook d5 check, which is really annoying. And my king can't go back to defend the bishop, because that would be a discovered check as well. So he's threatening to win the bishop immediately. And my king's running out of squares to go. This kind of diagonal combination with the bishop looking down this way is just absolutely devastating. So here after d6, for example, I think bishop h4 is the move that I would have played. And I did see bishop h4 in the game, and now he hasn't got knight g3 as easy because I can just take it off. There's some great lines here actually. Something like here, I can take, and then I think I might even be able to go rook here. Oh no, I can't. I was amusing myself with some funny lines because you allow d7, but then we take here with check or something. But I think actually, yeah, probably just the easier and simplest is just to bring the rook back to d8 to defend, and he hasn't got as much to attack with. Although I wonder if I'm after this. Like, f8. Oh, okay, this one, and we're threatening checkmate here. Nice new checkmates. Very nice. I like that a lot. So yeah, so not d6 here. Okay, I think he would go knight g3. I think would be the best move. But in the end, I insert. Do I go bishop d5? I do go bishop d5. And then I go king e5. And then he goes knight f4, which I think is a mistake. I think he should go knight g3. And this is a big problem for me because I think I pretty much have to at some point take this knight. I was going to play rook g5, but after d6, I think I have to now at this point decide which rook I'm going to sacrifice, because after bishop a2, this threat is too huge to ignore. So if I go bishop here, for example, after rook here check, king f6, he can swap rooks and then he can take this pawn on e4. It's all going wrong. I'm just like, why did I allow all of this complications? Apparently I can do rook takes knight for the only move for an advantage. But he makes a mistake, goes knight f4, and this finally allows my rooks a bit of freedom. And I'm able to block the d pawn. And here I'm really happy with what's going on right now. And okay, it's difficult for him to play though, to be fair. Because now as soon as my rooks get a bit more active, it's really easy for me to start creating the threats that I want. Now the rook's on the fourth rank, I defend e4, I'm threatening checks down here, he goes this way, double the rooks up. If I can swap the rooks off, then I've won this game, and the problem is his bishop is behind it, so this is game over here at this point right now, and this is just me cleaning up, and you see as soon as the rooks get behind, he actually hasn't got any checks here, he's got nothing that's nice. I mean, I even saw back here, even like knight g7 check was an idea, but I could go king e5, but I also saw that this was also winning, like he goes here, I go here. And so normally he does rook takes g6, and well, I can just take the knight, he takes the bishop. The problem is I take the bishop at the end. And therefore I'm a whole rook up at this point, and it's okay, that's just easily winning. So yeah, he's just, rook g5 is a bit more desperado, and yeah, you just know that when the rook's getting like this, and just a bit of technique to make sure. There's loads of nice checkmating ideas with b3 and bishop, even bishop b4 check comes in, the rook coming down to h1, and you actually checkmate him across the second rank. But I thought this was just the simplest thing to do, and yeah, he's just playing on for let me take some pieces. But yeah, okay, really crazy game. I didn't want it to last as long as it did. It lasted an extra hour, maybe even a bit longer than what I wanted it to, because we both used all of our extra half an hour's time. Should have been won around move 40 from some good play, but okay, this might have been a mistake, but it did gain me time on the clock. But the mistake that really I'm furious with, one is I don't mind rook f8 check because that was to get me to move 40, but thinking here, right now I had time on the clock, and I made a calculation error here, and that's something that I need to improve in my game, ready for next time. So yeah, I won the game, and obviously the London system didn't really get him any advantage as well at the opening, so that's completely neutralised that. And quite happy that I'm on 1.5 now out of 3, which is 50%. I'm playing against James Jackson later today, who's an international master. I've got the white pieces, so I've got every chance. Yeah, I hope it goes well, and enjoying my time here as well. Even though it's tiring, very enjoyable. Did have a quick look at Imogen and Lewis, and I think they both lost their games. Yeah, Imogen lost to Chris Baker, and Luis Ortiz Sanchez lost to Arjun Kalani. So they're both still on half a point as well. And at some point later on, I will have a look at the juniors, how they did at the weekend just gone, and when I've got a bit more time, maybe having a bit of a shorter game. Right, apart from that, thanks very much for watching. Of course, if you like the videos, please click like and subscribe. It encourages me to do a lot more of these. So thanks for you, and yeah, see you next time.